Back Row Ministry, the Moral Premier, Mr. Mahdi coming at you live and direct with part 2 of my breakdown of the film Harriet. And like I said, haven't saw the film, just basically went off of the things that I heard, and I'm comparing it to a movie which stars Cicely Tyson. You can go watch this movie on YouTube. It's entitled A Woman Called Moses, and it's her betrayal of Harriet Tubman, and it's also actually a 2-part TV series. And I think, you know, it has its Hollywood. It's 1978, y'all, so it has its kind of corny Hollywood themes, but it really, in my opinion, you got a powerful actor. And this was one of the complaints with the Harriet film, that, you know, not having an actor that could relate. And I got to look up the lineage of Cicely Tyson. I forgot where Cicely comes from, but being of that time helped Cicely relate to the struggle of Harriet. You can hear it in a lot of the lines that, you know, how she would present a lot of the lines. There's one part where she's speaking in the church, and, you know, this is when the fugitive slave law is enacted, and she's speaking in this church, and you hear the frustration of the 50s and 60s coming out of Cicely. Because remember, Cicely is grown up in this, and you hear that frustration coming out in the dialogue when she's presenting the dialogue for that scene, and the passion that comes along with it. And I think that's what the ADOS community is really pointing at. When you have Africans, descendants of slaves, who understand the struggle, and I think really around that time period, this film worked well with this character, because you're in that struggle, and you can really, all that anger can now come out. That anger can come out, and she really delivered a lot of those scenes, a lot of powerful scenes where you saw that anger. And like I said, just piecing together what I heard through the reviews about the film and comparing it to this movie. So they kind of portrayed Harriet, as the reviewers speak, as a punk. She's got a gun, but she doesn't really do anything with it. So there was a lot of lies written about her. Remember, at one point there was up to a $30,000 reward for her head. They were looking for her. They wanted her dead. So if she shot anybody, I don't know. I don't know if anybody was shot. Any patrollers were shot. Possibly were. But you got to still remember that if she did kill any patrollers or any Caucasian, it would have been hard for the people who were pretty much backing the Underground Railroad to back her, because it's kind of hard to defend her if she's killed a white person. You have to look at it from a realistic standpoint. So I don't know if she ever did, but I probably did, because Harriet was kind of a hardcore woman, didn't really take no crap. So I could see her putting some hot ones in somebody. But it would have been hard for them to kind of defend that when you're trying to, you know, abolish slavery on one hand, but then keep a system going. And the Underground Railroad was a very complex system that, you know, you needed white people for the system to work. So, big misconception. They say at the beginning of the movie, and this is what you're teaching children about Harriet Tubman. The beginning of the movie, you got this one part, the slave master and her, and all this goes on with the slave master, and she's supposed to be free, and he rips up her freedom papers, and then she just starts running. And she runs and runs and runs, and next thing you know, she's ran 100 miles, and, you know, she's free. Bullshit. If you're going to teach the history of how did she find out about the Underground Railroad. How did she learn about how the system worked? She didn't know nothing about how this system worked. She didn't just go run to whereverville, and it was all to the good. So the historic depiction of how it took place, or how they put it in A Woman Called Moses, is while she's working in the town, because, you know, the plantation has a town. While she's working in the town, this is the same town she met her husband and everything, one of the other slave girls on the plantation, she was also hired out. So she was also working in the town, and she connected her with a lady that they would do her laundry for. They would do the laundry and get paid. And the lady was working for the abolitionist movement. She was working for the Underground Railroad. So she received this information early on by the other hired hand. That's how she found out about this lady. But she, you know, she wasn't moving on that because she was still stuck on the idea that, well, I can save my money, I can buy my freedom. And she does save her money, and she does go to her master, and she does ask, say, hey, I got this amount of money, you know, yada, 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 I want to buy my freedom. And he basically tells her, you know, go fuck off. You know, you can give me 200, 300, 1,000. I'm not selling you. Basically, this idea of him allowing herself to buy her freedom to him was an insult. He wasn't gonna do that. It's just his way of keeping control. Although she made this money, she went out there and bust her butt. No, you still gonna be a slave. I'm not selling you. I'm not gonna let you buy your freedom, because that creates the idea that every slave can buy their freedom. So he was like, no. So of course that got to her, that upset her. Now she's thinking that, you know, this is bullshit. There's no way I'll never be free. I can't even buy my freedom in this situation. Then all the shit comes to head with her husband. So all this stress continues to build up. Then the original owner of the slave plantation where her family was, the wife died. The doctor was just there. The other guy was just there pretty much to watch over things, but it wasn't his plantation, it was the wife's plantation. When she died, all hell broke loose. So at that point, her family was in danger. You know, the overseers was just acting a fool, because this is a point where overseers at time to time just went and beat the shit out of people just be doing it. They beat the shit out of her sister-in-law, and you know, at this time, you know, she just fed up. So Harriet at this time just decides, you know, fuck it, I've had enough. You know, I can't buy my freedom. My husband's an asshole. He's a free man who just stole my money, because he stole the rest of their money. Because when his free man papers ran out, he went and bought his freedom, and, you know, fuck her, because I'm a free man. So, you know, all this stress is built up. So Harriet now uses information that was introduced to us earlier in the film, where she got the information about the lady who's working the Underground Railroad. Just free slaves. She didn't know about no Underground Railroad. She just knew that she helps freed slaves. So in her frustration, she runs to this lady and say, hey, that's it. I got to get the fuck out of here. I got to go out here. I hear you help free slaves. And that's where she learned about the Underground, the network called the Underground Railroad. And when she first heard about it, she thought it was going to be a train underground to take her to Philadelphia. She didn't know what it was like. Is a train underground? Like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. And she got educated to the system of how the Underground Railroad worked. She got instruction, and she followed the instruction, and she was able to follow this instruction due to the guidance her father had given her about how to navigate through the woods, how to navigate using the river and stuff like that. And that's how she was able to get away. So this whole thing about she ran 100 miles and all of a sudden she just popped up free, bullshit. And that's a bullshit lesson to teach kids. You're not teaching them the proper history of how this system worked. It was a complex system, and you needed Caucasians to work the system. I'm sorry, my ADOS brothers. Sometimes we just want it pointed at us. But these systems, unfortunately, would not have worked without abolitionists being a part of it. And these were Caucasian abolitionists that were willing to help free slaves. So that's how that networking system worked. It was a system coming out of Maryland straight into Philadelphia. That was the initial setup. So, you know, already, you know, a lot of fictionalized bullshit in the new movie that, you know, like, you just run and you're just free. How'd you learn about the Underground Railroad? You just run and meet William Steele? No. She got the information. She knew that William Steele Church was a safe haven. The Liberty Church was a safe haven for slaves. And that's where she went, and that's when she began working for them. In the film, A Woman Called Moses, she's already named Harriet. She doesn't, you know, do the name changing ceremony with William Steele and all that, but she is working very closely with Mr. Steele for a number of years. So we'll do a little bit more in Harriet Part 3 breakdown of the film.